Nice lyrics, Akil. Sorry for being a little bit later. No. Okay, there's 5 of you guys here. Guys, I did send the PowerPoint. It's kind of awkward. It'd be easier actually if we did the PowerPoint over Google Hangouts, but because this is recorded, for some reason my camera's easier. Hold on for 1 sec. You can come across. That's fine. Okay, I see 5 of you guys are here, but nobody but Nikila said something. Okay, you guys are gonna get kicked out. That's the problem. There we go. Dartmouth versus Woodward. It was one of the court. I think you're a little ahead of your time though. Dartmouth versus Woodward. I mean, that's for tomorrow, so I can answer it. That's the one that upholds the sanctity of contracts. Remember, so the Marshall Court decisions in terms of creating a national economy, we have to create new rules, and one of the new rules is Dartmouth versus Woodward. If you have a contract, which Dartmouth did for creating the college, they can't just take that. Can't take that and do what they want with it. Okay, you guys are way ahead. Jackson's way ahead. You guys were supposed to be doing Constitution, Jeffersonian democracy. You don't have questions on that from Friday. I guess we can go ahead, but nice. Okay, I just guess I killed the conversation there. Okay, if you guys don't have questions about Constitution or Jeffersonian democracy, I can answer other ones if you want, I suppose. Jefferson and Hamilton's view of the national government similar? Good question. I guess they both acknowledge the need for a national government. That might be the strongest point. And I think when you get to that point, if you get that question, it's probably once once Jefferson becomes president, he doesn't change much. He keeps the bank, does pay off the debt, keeps the bank, keeps the army. He actually used the Navy to fight the Barbary pirates. So maybe less in their philosophy. So if you get that question, I think it's probably less difference in their philosophy, or sorry, more difference in their philosophy, less difference in how they actually use it. But obviously, they had a lot more differences. These guys don't really have a lot of questions. The Yazoo land fraud was one of the problems that Jefferson had during his administration. So the bigger problem is in terms of, well, that one was the Georgia government, the state legislator getting bribed the state legislature getting bribes so settlers can move out west. So I guess if you want to argue the significance, one, that people are moving out west. Um, Secondly, it's the Yazoo land fraud upholds sanctity of contracts again because the people that bought the land didn't do the bribing, so you can't just take the land from them. But it's just another domestic trouble with Jefferson. Jasmine's question: the Jay's Treaty. Jay's Treaty. It seemed like a failure because we were capitulating to the British, so that they were supposed to be out of the forts from the Treaty of Paris after the Revolutionary War. They didn't leave because they said we didn't pay off our debts, and so it looked like we were giving in to them. Like people wanted to fight the British, but Washington knew that we weren't ready to have another war. So we kind of gave in, and they're unhappy with Jay's Treaty in the beginning, but they did like it once the Ohio River Valley opened up. So more settlers can move out west. I think there's just four of you guys, so it's your chance to ask anything you want. So how was Friday's review in class? What did you guys do? Oh, that's okay. Yeah, but I think Ignatius class, he was there on Friday. I wasn't there in class on Friday actually. So that's okay. And we can do with whatever we want here. But for the two or three people that are from my class, I guess if you guys, I mean, if the review was good on Friday, then we don't have to go over it again. Um, and because I wasn't there actually for the one before that, fourth hour people, Jasmine or I guess just Jasmine, you can ask, or we can go for the next one that's due tomorrow too, and that's okay. That's fine since there's very few of us here and you guys don't think they have questions. Go ahead, Ruwana. JL's question: the Lowell, I mean, the Lowell system is significant because it just exemplifies industrialization. So you have textiles, and you have a shift in the workforce. So one of the themes College Board wants to know is like migrations, and so it's not only us migrating west, but people migrating from the farms to the cities. And if you remember, so this is one of the things that starts now, and that's an ongoing trend until the 1920s. 1920s, there's finally more people that live in the cities than they do in the rural areas. So I think Lowell kind of exemplifies that, and then you have the empowerment of women. That's part of that too. Redwana's question: Charles River Bridge versus Warren Bridge. Uh, not so not so much monopolies, but the public interest outweighs the private interest. And so, when we're talking about writing rules for the economy, it's kind of weird because like the sanctity contract seems to favor private interest, right? So if you have a contract, the contract stands. Charles River Bridge now says, well, just because somebody has a contract, if it's in the public interest to build another bridge in this case, then that's okay. Jasmine's question: corrupt bargain. It went to the House because nobody got a majority. So if nobody wins a majority, it's still true today. If nobody wins a majority, the necessary electoral votes, it goes to the House. So the corrupt bargain, though, again, is slightly different. That Clay, once it was in the House, um, essentially favored Adams and got other people to vote for Adams in exchange for, the rumor was, in exchange for becoming Secretary of State. At that point, being Secretary of State is kind of a stepping stone to becoming president. JLS question. No, Jackson's cabinet wasn't corrupt. He had his own person, so he had his official cabinet, but then he had his kitchen cabinet, which were essentially his advisors and his friends that were unofficial advisors. Grant had a corrupt cabinet. Harding had a corrupt cabinet, so probably more of those than Jackson. Jackson just had his kitchen cabinet. They probably weren't. Ridwan's question: were they qualified? Yeah, probably not. They're more people Jackson trusted because they're his friends. So Panic of 1837. That was the one after the specie circular. So after Jackson kills the bank, and inflation's running rampant. To kill inflation, he tells people you have to. The only way you can buy Western lands is through gold. You can't buy it through credit anymore. You have to pay for it in hard currency, gold or silver. And that triggers the panic. But the best thing about 1837 is that Jackson's not there. It's Martin Van Buren's problem. So the Independent Treasury Act is part of a larger story. So again, the question is, what do you do with all that money that the federal government's collecting? They used to have it in the national bank, but then you killed the national bank, put it in the pet banks, but then the pet banks loaned out too much money and it caused inflation as well. So what do you do with that money? The Independent Treasury Act says, well, we'll divorce banking from the government. That's kind of the underground vaults thing. So essentially, the government will hang on to, they just won't spend it. You can't do anything with it. Denver, I think we have a link for an AP calculator. If you're talking about percentages, um, a link for like how much the multiple. I want to say the multiple choice is like 40%. The short answer question is like 15%. DBQ is 25, and LEQ is 15. If that makes sense. But there's a calculator there, so if you wanted to like plug in your numbers, we don't usually do that because obviously it's like you should just try your best on all of them. You're not gonna go easy on the SAQ because you thought you did well on the multiple choice. Okay, this might be the slowest chat ever. Let's see. Worcester versus Georgia and Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. They're two contradictory rulings during Jackson's time, both done by Marshall. So the Worcester versus Georgia, Georgia passed a law that you can't go in Cherokee Nation, you can't go in the Cherokee territory without Georgia's permission. Two guys went in there, they got arrested, and they were going to be punished. The Marshall court said you can't set laws for a foreign nation. So Cherokee Nation essentially, the Cherokee territory is essentially a foreign nation. So Georgia can't make laws. So that law punishing those guys for going in there was unconstitutional. Cherokee Nation versus Georgia says you can't have a nation within inside of our nation. So they're kind of contradictory. And supposedly after Worcester versus Georgia, Jackson's quote, I don't think he actually said this, but supposedly Jackson said like Marshall's made his decision, let him enforce it. Okay. Oh, another Yazoo land fraud question. Yazoo land fraud was one of the domestic things that happened under Jefferson. It kind of went against Jefferson's whole small government. People will take care of themselves. Georgia state legislator got bribed by the Yazoo Land Company, and they turned around and sold that land. Once they found out about it, they wanted to take the land from the people, but you can't because that's kind of sanctity of contracts. Those people didn't steal the land. So they couldn't do anything about it. I think they later reimbursed them for it and got the land. But it's one of the dings in Jefferson during Jefferson's administration. People aren't always going to do the right thing. I think it's probably the big takeaway. Okay, so Brendan, you guys just watched the video also on Friday, or I guess anybody else that's there 6th hour. Is it hard to watch this video for the review? Oh, that's not good. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it in tomorrow. Maybe we can clean up then. So for anyone that's joining late here or just joining, apparently we've just moved on to tomorrow's sheet. attendant for my class because we didn't have. I wasn't there on Friday, for you guys to do cleanup questions, but apparently we're past that. We had that question. Ridwana, you want to try to answer that question? Or I think it was Ridwana that asked that earlier. Brendan's question about compare and contrast Jefferson and Hamilton's new national government. And if not, I can answer it. Okay, Ridwana, then answer the question for him. Okay, good. Yeah, just to organize your answers a little bit. So I think there's a lot more contrast. So they differed in who they supported, British or French. So Hamilton was British, Jefferson was French. Differed in terms of the bank. Hamilton wanted the bank, Jefferson did not. Different in terms of how they viewed the Constitution. So Hamilton was a loose constructionist that would allow them to create the bank. Jefferson was a strict constructionist, saying there was nothing in there about the bank. Hamilton wanted a strong executive. Jefferson wanted a weaker executive. So those were the contrasts. They differed a lot on all those things. The Jefferson thought we were going to be a nation of farmers. Hamilton thought we were going to be a nation of trade and manufacturing. That's good. So where they compared though is the actual execution. So they differed. They contrasted a lot in their views of national government. Where they actually were more similar was when Jefferson got to power, he governed almost like a federalist. So actually, in his inaugural address, he said, "We're all Federalists. We're all Republicans. We're all Federalists now." Okay, and so he didn't do that. I mean, he changed some things, but he didn't do that much change. In fact, if you think about Louisiana Purchase, if you remember, he actually was more like a Federalist because he used a loose interpretation of the Constitution by Louisiana. Okay. JL's question: why was the Second National Bank? The first bank expired. So the first bank expired in 1818, I believe it was. So they had to create another. They had a few years where there was no national bank and things were kind of chaotic. So they created a second national bank. But I don't, in the scope of things, that's not that important. No, Jayla, there was a second national bank, but it got killed by. That's the one that Jackson killed. Evelyn's question: the kitchen cabinet didn't really do anything. They're just informal advisors to Jackson. So the irony is Jackson's a man of the people, thinks anybody can serve in government, but when it comes to having people serve in his cabinet, he didn't really trust them. He turned back to his friends, which is kind of elitist if you think about that. You can't trust the people that are serving in your cabinet. No, his veto did not get overridden. In fact, after he vetoed the bank, he went on to, because that was the creation to recharter the bank. He went on to kill it because the bank was going to be around for 3 million years. He went to kill that. To Brendan's question about the veto getting overridden. We'd want a Panic of 1837 question. I think that was yours originally too. It's funny how you guys always have the same questions. And so if you remember, panic always means economic depression or economic recession. The 1837 one was after it's part of the story. Jackson kills the National Bank. The money, instead of going to the National Bank, goes into his pet banks or those state banks. Those state banks lend out all the money. They give out too much credit. All that credit causes inflation. And because of inflation, land prices out west go really high. They're inflated. To pop the inflation bubble of the land prices, Jackson issues a specie circular. So if you want to buy it, you have to pay for it. Buy Western lands, you have to pay for it in gold or silver. And because people don't have that kind of money, land prices drop. That's part of the Panic of 1837. So that's the whole answer. Significance example of Jackson's the effect of Jackson's ignorance about the economy and how it works, and the national bank and how it works. I think you could say that. Slowly getting more people here. I guess Sunday nights maybe not good for you guys. Well, welcome, Lily. Better late than never. No, well, Jackson wasn't around when the panic happened. That was Martin Van Buren's problem. That's part of the funny part of all this. Yeah, I get that, Connor. So, first time trying it out. Um, yeah, so I don't think Jackson's a man of many regrets. If anything, I think he probably still thought he was right. Okay, Nibleen's question about the sorry, I missed some things now. Or maybe I didn't. Kitchen cabinet didn't do much. They're informal advisors. Okay, so I didn't. Okay, it is an opportunity for you people that are here though to ask all the questions you want because there's not very many of you. Yes, it's a review about the review. Actually, I think they're asking questions about tomorrow's sheet more so. This was intended originally as a review for my class on Friday because I wasn't there, but kind of the cleanup. Brendan's question about the Whig Party. The Whig Party originally hated Jackson, so that was their original organizing principle. Later, the Whig Party comes to be about not really about expansion, they're about internal improvements. They want tariffs, they want internal improvements. Gordo, the answer is always C. Good job, Rwanda. Yeah, just remember that when you guys take the AP exam. Panic, it's probably C. Clay was a Whig. Yes. Not literally a Whig. Yeah, those are the kind of the major themes of the day, or major themes of the era. That's the way it should try to get you thinking. So, for instance, I'm not sure if you got. Well, you guys kind of got to it, but no, you guys. I mean, the back of the sheet. I'm thinking the Constitution, Jeffersonian democracy one. So it's about the debates within the Constitutional Convention. Um, it's Federalist era, so Washington and Adams, and kind of the challenges they had domestically and foreign policy wise, and then Thomas Jefferson, domestic and foreign policy as well. So that was the thinking when we created it. My class had actually sent you out the PowerPoint that we were supposed to watch on Friday. So I'm not sure if you received. I just sent it out one before I hopped on here. So that was the thinking. Yeah, Lily, true enough. Dave Lee's question: who's the head of the Whigs? Henry Clay is essentially the head of the Whigs, and actually that's part of the problem. So if you remember when Harrison dies and Tyler becomes president, they thought the Whigs thought Tyler was just going to listen to them, but Tyler wanted to be his own man. Yes, Brendan, Independent Treasury Act, where you bury the money, you put them in underground vaults. Connor's question: the periodization and changing periodization, that was used to be a question form, but they got rid of that technically. But it's almost like cause and effect. Periodization is before, it's like a before and after question. So same ideas that, I mean, if you did periodization, it would help you with in terms of the analysis. So that's why we just kind of left them on. Changing continuities across eras. So same topic, but across eras. So compare women of the women's rights movement in the 1840s and the 1960s. Same topic, different time period. No, Gordo, I think her point was that, if C somehow was a better choice, then that would be like 40 or 50% of the answers or something like that. But JL's question: the wing down as an A against Johnson. I'm not really sure what ABJ against 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 something Johnson. Not really sure. No, Jasmine, they don't have periodization questions anymore, which is kind of sucks. The first 2 years of the rewrite, the APUSH rewrite, all the LAQ questions were periodization, but they got rid of them for last year. Then they won't have them anymore technically. But if you did, essentially, it's almost like cause and effect. So what was it like before? What's it like now? And the reason for that change. So it's not a bad thing to know. Okay, fair enough. I think you guys have pretty funny profile pictures. Okay, fair enough. Okay. Since you guys don't have any questions, or not seemingly so many questions, Alex de Tocqueville was the guy that came to America and said America is diverse and great and everybody can be successful. He's the one that Democracy in America was his book. He came here to study prisons and ended up touring America and feeling like America is such a great place. So you come here and you kind of lose your identity and you become American. Lily, I wouldn't worry about that. Yeah, since you guys have very few questions, but you can keep asking them. Is it worthwhile to do something like this and on a weekend? And if so, because we're only going to have probably like another two anyways. If so, do you want to do a general review, just ask general questions, or what? So I am open to those kind of suggestions. I'm not sure what kind of answering game over everything that we've covered, or answering game over stuff that for this past review. Again, Radwana, so stuff that we've covered or stuff going forward? Or both? Okay, well, go ahead, fire with questions. Yeah, go ahead. There's not too many of you guys here. Just ask whatever questions you want. Gordo 0. We're not supposed to grade our own students. In fact, I don't think I've ever been at my table has never graded anybody from our school. Fun, probably not. Gotten better and faster at reading essays, but yeah, I wouldn't quite say it's fun. Those are the kind of questions you guys want to ask. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Ask whatever question you want. Talmadge Amendment is for the was the proposed amendment for the Missouri Compromise. So it there was going to ban slavery in Missouri. Anybody that was over 25 or anybody that was a slave there would be freed when they turned 25. And it passed the House, and it lost in the Senate. And the indication of that is that, again, the North. I'm sorry. Let's see. Yeah, passed the House. The North is growing faster because of industrialization, so they have more members in the House. So that's kind of the sign of the times that it passed the House, doesn't pass the Senate. Okay, and if you recall, Missouri then becomes a slave state in exchange for Maine coming in as a free state. um, Brendan's question about Martin Van Buren and the Independent Treasury Act. I think those are two separate things. Martin Van Buren had to deal with the money. So the problem, after you killed the bank, you still have to put the money somewhere. They put it in the pet banks. That caused inflation, and then that's when they popped it. So you still have the problem what to do with the money. The Independent Treasury Act was supposed to be that answer. Lily, they write a lot of funny things. I'll tell you another day. But yeah, there's been some crazy stuff that kids write when they both when they don't know the answer and they just write something off topic, and also sometimes when they think they're on topic and it's kind of crazy. Rodwana, the halfway covenant. Halfway covenant is the Puritan church was losing membership, right? Because why be a member of the church? You can't vote because you haven't been saved, and you can go west and get land and become successful. So as a way to get people in the church, they would allow kids to be baptized, although non-voting members when they grow up. That's why it's a halfway covenant. Lily, no, I haven't heard. I haven't heard anything bad about any of the prep books. I think any of them will be fine. Thalman's amendment. We discovered that was the amendment to the Missouri Compromise. They wanted Missouri to be a free state, and any slaves that were there now would be freed when they turned 25. It failed in the Senate, but passed in the House because the House has more members, because there's a greater population, because of industrialization. That's kind of the sign that if you don't keep a balance like they did, slavery is going to be in trouble. Jayla's question about Louisiana Purchase, because um, Napoleon was going to build a new world empire, but to do that, he had to put down the slave revolt in Haiti, and that's where he failed. Remember, he sent Leclerc, his son-in-law, and Toussaint Louverture was leading the Haitian rebellion, and those people were willing to die before they could go back in slavery. That and diseases got them, and so all of his hopes of a new world empire got crushed. He was so depressed. We wanted to just buy New Orleans. He offered all the Louisiana territory. Yeah, they might have needed money, but it was more that the hopes of a new North American empire was dashed. Hello, Ansh. Or are you just saying hi to Brendan? It wasn't really Hispanics. It was Jayla's question. It was the slave revolt. That's what made it so scary. So if the slave revolt was successful, and if it's successful in Haiti, it could be successful in the United States too. That's why it was such a scary example for people. Um, because Andrew Jackson, Brendan's question about Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson's a turning point because he redefines the presidency. So he says the president's the only office chosen by all of the people. Senators are just voted on by the state. Representatives are just voted on by their districts. President's the only office voted for all the people. So he intended to speak for all the people. So he used the veto. He made himself a member of the legislative process, including vetoing legislation. Forceful character, obviously killing the bank. And so he's a strong personality, and he kind of turns off that. And if remember, prior to that, it's the era of good feelings where there's not really any political difference. Things are going well. Andrew Jackson is the one that turns it. Oh, Jayla, the question about the Hispanics, the problem. I mean, if you remember, I don't know which article you read when we did those two articles about the treaty and the purchase. And so the problem is you have a lot of mixed people there. So you have French, Spanish slaves, free blacks, and Jefferson only was going to give citizenship to the free whites there. And so purposely changed the constitution of the territory to say that only white inhabitants are given rights. Okay, and so that became the big problem. Um, Lily, maybe I did say J Lo. Okay, Unit 3 sheet. It should have been due Friday. I wasn't there either, so but it was. See you, Gordo. Okay, time's ticking, folks. Anything else? Okay, that's not good, Lily. The Federalist paper made the argument. Oh, Hamilton wrote most of them, but John Jay and James Madison wrote some too. Um, they made the argument for passing the Constitution. So after they drafted the Constitution, they had to get it ratified, in particular in New York. And so the Federalist Papers were written anonymously by Hamilton, Jay, and Madison, laying out the arguments. And so people say actually today, if you want to know what the founding fathers were thinking, you should, in their rationale, you should read the Federalist Papers. Second National Bank is where it's same thing. They controlled the federal money and helped control the money supply and inflation for Connor's question. Um, so that's the purpose. I'm not sure if you had something else there. Jackson, Natalie, good question. His veto power. Two things. The Maysville Road veto. The Maysville Road was a road that was going to start in Kentucky and end in Kentucky. And because it stopped and started in the same state, Jackson felt that it was the state's responsibility, not the federal government. So that's the most famous one. Um, the other one is the vetoes the Second National Bank. So they actually get it passed. He vetoes it, but he's going to kill it anyways. Yeah, Brennan's question about the Marshall Court. So the Marshall Court, again, because the economy is growing and the country's changing and getting bigger, you need new rules. That's the important idea. And so the new rules to the economy, it regulates federal government regulates interstate commerce. Federal government is supremacy of the federal government. National bank is constitutional. Sanctity of contracts. So Dartmouth versus Woodward, Fletcher versus Peck, as well as public interests outweigh private interests. Okay, that's the Charles River Bridge, Warren Bridge. So you should know the cases and kind of what precedent it sets. And I don't have Monday's sheet for me. Is that obviously I take it from Monday? Thank you, Connor. Yes, Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. You can't have a nation inside of a nation.
Are you on? Can you hear us?
Yeah, they can hear you. I had muted it.
Why?
Okay, I'm not sure if you guys stopped asking questions or it's frozen. And most question because British is our heritage. Again, most of the people, um, most of the people are still British or come from England, so we have that in common. It's kind of like I don't know, kind of like a family fight, right? After your family has a fight, you don't kind of want to disown them. Thank you, Lily. Yes, they felt Britishy, Britishy. Remember, we still did. Remember, and also we still did a lot of trade with England as well. Yes, the Republicans were pro-French, and they liked the French, in particular Jefferson, because the French also followed our democratic model. So they're a democracy as well. No, typically people don't. I'm just looking at my wide selection of emojis. Ridwana, yes, they were. They're both representative bodies for the colonies. I think that's probably the best thing to know about them. They and Mole's question, the other states did, but because Massachusetts and Virginia are the two most important states, I think those are the ones that people remember. So I would say for APUSH purposes, those are the ones you should know. No, Lily, I think they did. I mean, Pennsylvania, I can't remember what theirs was called. But I'm sure most of them did. But again, because Virginia and Massachusetts are two most important states, that's a yes. Oh, Jayla's question, I didn't see that. No, they were not in reservations, and so part of the Trail of Tears, like if the U.S. government moved them west of the Mississippi, then they would be safe. That was kind of Jackson's argument. They'd be protected from settlers and they'd be protected from this government because there's all the space here, and they could go across the Mississippi and be safe. Then once obviously we filled up and Manifest Destiny happened, we kept on coming across the Mississippi. Then they moved to the reservations after they subjugated. Connor's question. I don't know the overall numbers. I know for our numbers, we about 2/3 of our kids get 4s or 5s. Lily, you probably could look it up, but for our purposes here, yeah, we really pride ourselves. So we have a good pass rate, and then of that passing rate, 2/3 of them are 4s and 5s. So again, that's the hellish pace that we went on throughout the school year, is to get us in position to do that. It feels like a horse race. I'm not sure how kids find emoji so fast. Lily, for 2s and 3s, or for 4s and 5s, I mean? Wow, I feel even better about herself now. Jail, what proclamation? Are you talking about proclamation of 1763? So the proclamation of, if you're talking about the proclamation of 1763, that was issued by the king that didn't want settlers going west of the Appalachian because every time we went west, we wanted to we got in conflict with Native Americans. And so, how do you stop the conflict? We'll just tell people they can't go west. But remember, going west was how people became successful because there's land there, and they also got angry at the king for that. Connor's question about the corrupt bargain. The corrupt bargain is the when nobody won the 1824 election, nobody got the majority, the necessary votes. 1824 election went to the House, so it's still true today. If nobody gets the necessary electoral votes, it goes to the House. Henry Clay drops out of the race, wins support for John Quincy Adams in the House, and then John Quincy Adams names Henry Clay Secretary of State, which is kind of like the stepping stone to the presidency. And that's when Andrew Jackson claimed it was a corrupt bargain. It looked like a dirty deal. Like, I help you become president, you name me Secretary of State. Did you just learn that too? That's good. My son's just learned that in middle school. No, I think it's a diamond, Lily. So, Jail, does that make sense in terms of the proclamation? So, no reservations don't happen until late 1800s when the U.S. moves out there. That's after the Plains Wars. So, Geronimo and the Apache and Chief Joseph, those guys. Yes, I'm all. Yep. So that showed the contrast. So when the Whiskey Rebellion happens, we actually have a army there to deal with it, and Washington rides out there himself, which is kind of weird to think about today. No, Brendan, we transitioned. The North transitioned to industrialization, textile economies. Lowell and the Mill Girls, Boston Associates, Waltham System. The North begins to industrialize. The South begins to turn to cotton because of the cotton gin. I mean, I'm sure they did those things, but that doesn't become the dominant industry. We're beginning to transition. And Mole's question: John Adams was the only president to use midnight appointments. Well, yeah, I think midnight appointments. Presidents do like midnight pardons, so they pardon people at the end. But I don't think so much for the appointment. Oh, no problem, Jayla. Sorry, I hope I wasn't screaming at you or anything. Yazoo land fraud was one of the things under Jefferson. This is where the Yazoo Land Company bribed the Georgia state legislature to sell them some land they didn't own, particularly in the Cherokee territory. Then the Yazoo Land Company turned around and sold that to people. And when the federal government found out about it, they wanted the land back. But the people that were living there said, well, it's not our fault. We bought the land like we're supposed to. We paid for it honestly. It gives the court case Fletcher versus Peck, upholds the sanctity of contract, but also it is one of the problems of during Jefferson's administration. So not everything is great during Jefferson's time. Okay, got time for one or two more questions. And in the meantime, if you guys don't have questions, hey, I would honestly like some feedback in terms of like if we do a Sunday night review for the next couple weekends or something like that. If you guys have some way to make it more beneficial to you, okay, it doesn't really matter to me which way we take it, but something that would make it work for you guys. You can tell. I mean, you don't have to tell me now. Tell me in the hallway or tell me in class. Okay. See you, Ridwana. Okay, and well, that's fair enough. That's actually a good point. So, okay, we'll see y'all in school tomorrow. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. Bye.